In the comments section of my last video, Arden Lucis Kylum asked me for my thoughts on the Omen trailer. Since they're a bit too extensive to limit to a single comment, I decided to offer them in the form of another video. One thing I'd like to make clear from the outset is that the Omen trailer's position in the FF15 universe is very strange. On YouTube, the video is described as both a nightmare for the struggling Noctis and an omen to be prevented. A recent GDC panel complicated things further, calling it an alternate universe. Given the contradictory information offered by official sources, the Omen trailer appears to be subject to interpretation by design. With that said, I find the Nightmare for Noctis interpretation far more compelling than the Omen of Catastrophe to be prevented one. While the game never implies that specific actions forestall the events of the trailer, everything that happens in the trailer can be taken to reflect Noctis' ambivalence towards his calling as king. And, if you accept that the trailer operates according to dream logic, the nature of its symbolism is readily apparent. First, let's establish the Omen trailer's intended context. While much of the trailer is symbolic, its dialogue is quite literal. The trailer begins with Luna's explanation about the calling of the King of Light. Luna informs Noctis that he was chosen by the crystal to purge our star of its scourge. Near the end of the trailer, Noctis declares that he won't let her down. After this, there's a sequence in which Regis is speaking to a voice inside the crystal.
How many must die before you are satisfied?
I have seen many deaths, but now I'm only looking forward to one. And then I can rest.
He will take responsibility, you know.
As must we all.
May the gods forgive me.
It's important to note that the dialogue in this sequence differs heavily depending on the localization. Here's what the Japanese subtitles say, according to Poi 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 9 on NeoGAF. So far, how many lives must be sacrificed?
All of the sacrifices are for the sake of the future king. And then our calling will end.
The king will surely fulfill his calling.
Of course.
These differences are so extensive, in fact, that the only way they can refer to the same thing is if both versions are meant to reference Noctis' sacrificial death. Now that we've determined that the Omen trailer centers on Noctis calling as king, let's take a look at the symbols used throughout the trailer. Luna is repeatedly shown in place of Noctis' mirror image, which suggests that Noctis and Luna's roles in Omen represent each other as much as themselves. It's interesting to note that some of the cuts imply further parallels. This transition between Luna being struck and Noctis rising is a good example. Furthermore, Noctis and Luna are associated with the dogs Umbra and Prina, which allows the trailer to suggest that Noctis is following Luna, and vice versa, even though they share few scenes. Prina is particularly interesting due to her transformation into a hellhound. Hellhounds traditionally represent death. Noctis following Prina not only suggests that he's following Luna, but also that he's unknowingly allowing himself to be led by death itself. This leads to the next major symbol, the evil Noctis whose actions harm those Noctis cares about. Not only does this figure slay Luna with her own trident, it shatters the sword of the father, an obvious reference to Regis. It evokes both the inhumanity inherent in the sacrificial demands placed on Noctis and Luna, and the nature of Noctis' ultimate target as a corrupted king. Finally, there is recurring imagery of Noctis being stripped, not only of his clothing, but also his abilities and agency. This likely represents Noctis' experience of growing powerlessness as he confronts his destiny. When taken as a whole, the Omen trailer can be interpreted as follows. Noctis, while ambivalent about his calling as king, is so desperate to follow Luna that he ignores his growing powerlessness and fails to recognize where he's being led. Luna, as Noctis' mirror image, follows a path very similar to his own. The evil Noctis simultaneously represents Noctis' duties in general, and Arden as the focal point of those duties. While Luna is killed with the trident of the Oracle, reflecting the necessity of the Oracle's death in fulfilling Noctis' calling, the actions of the evil Noctis also present the image of a corrupted king, Arden, murdering Noctis' fiancée. In other words, the Omen trailer could simply be a nightmare that Noctis had after entering Reflection. While its connection with the game's events isn't straightforward, it does address and comment on concerns triggered by the events and revelations of Chapter 13.